Imagine finding a penny in your pocket that looks completely ordinary, yet quietly carries a story from a turning point in American money. A coin so familiar that millions of people have handled it, but so overlooked that most never stop to ask what it might be worth. Today, we're talking about the 1981 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin that hides history, surprises, and a few rare possibilities right in plain sight. The 1981 no mint mark Lincoln penny is a 1-cent coin produced in the United States at the Philadelphia Mint. Unlike coins from Denver or San Francisco, Philadelphia pennies during this time usually did not carry a mint mark. That missing letter under the date is exactly what makes this coin interesting. It signals where it was made and places it firmly in a very important moment in U.S. coin history. To understand this penny, we need to go back to the early 1980s. America was facing rising metal prices, inflation, and increasing production costs. Making coins was becoming more expensive, especially pennies. Copper prices were climbing, and the government was actively looking for ways to reduce the cost of producing 1-cent coins. The year 1981 sits right on the edge of that change. At this time, pennies were still being made the traditional way, using a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc. This made the coin heavier, richer in color, and more valuable in metal content than modern pennies. Just 1 year later, in 1982, the U.S. Mint would begin switching to mostly zinc pennies coated with a thin layer of copper. That change alone makes the 1981 penny historically important. It represents the end of an era. The design of the 1981 Lincoln penny follows the classic look Americans recognize instantly. On the front, Abraham Lincoln faces to the right. His portrait, first introduced in 1909, honors the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Above his head is the phrase, "In God we trust." To the left is the word liberty, and to the right is the date, 1981. There is no mint mark below the date, confirming it was struck in Philadelphia. On the back of the coin, you'll see the Lincoln Memorial, a design used from 1959 until 2008. Between the columns of the memorial, a tiny seated statue of Lincoln can be seen if you look closely. Along the top edge is United States of America, and below the memorial is 1 cent, with E pluribus unum above it. At first glance, there's nothing flashy about this penny. Millions were made, and most are still worth just 1 cent. But the real story begins when you look deeper, especially at condition and minting errors. One reason the 1981 no mint mark penny gets attention is because it was struck before the mint's major cost-cutting changes. The coin weighs about 3.11 grams, heavier than modern pennies. Many collectors appreciate this solid copper feel. When held next to a newer penny, the difference is noticeable. Now let's talk about rarity and value. In normal circulated condition, a 1981 no mint mark penny is common. You can still find them in old jars, drawers, and collections. However, value changes dramatically when the coin is in excellent condition or has a mint error. Uncirculated examples, meaning coins that never entered everyday use, can be worth several dollars, especially if they show strong detail and original shine. Coins graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC in high mint state grades have sold for higher prices at auction. Some pristine examples have sold for $20, $30, or more, depending on grade and demand. Where things get truly interesting is with errors. Error coins are mistakes made during the minting process, and collectors love them because no two are exactly alike. One known type is the double die error. This happens when the coin die receives a misaligned impression during production, causing parts of the design, like letters or numbers, to appear doubled. On a 1981 penny, doubling might show up in the date, the word liberty, or in God we trust. Genuine doubled die coins can sell for hundreds of dollars, sometimes more, depending on how strong and clear the doubling is. Another sought-after error is an off-center strike. This is when the coin blank is not properly centered during striking, causing part of the design to be missing. A dramatic off-center 1981 penny with no mint mark can sell for $50, $100, or even more if the date is still visible. Broadstrike errors, where the coin spreads wider than normal because the collar failed during striking, are also collectible. These coins look slightly larger and flatter than normal pennies and often sell for solid premiums. There are also rare cases of wrong planchet errors, where a penny is struck on the wrong metal blank. These are extremely rare and valuable, sometimes selling for thousands of dollars if authenticated. Collectors often ask how to tell a real valuable 1981 penny from a normal one. The first step is weight. A genuine 1981 copper penny should weigh around 3.11 grams. A digital scale can help with this. Next, examine the coin closely under good lighting. Look for doubling in the letters and numbers, unusual shapes, or missing details. Be cautious of fakes or altered coins. Some people try to create fake errors by filing, flattening, or damaging coins. Real mint errors usually show smooth, natural metal flow and matching wear patterns. If you think you have something special, professional grading and authentication are always recommended. Here's a fun fact many people don't know. Because copper prices rose so sharply in the early 1980s, some people began hoarding pennies like the 1981 issue, hoping their metal value would increase. While melting pennies is illegal, this hoarding behavior is one reason many high-quality examples still exist today. Another surprising detail is that the 1981 penny is often used by collectors to teach beginners about previous 1,982 copper coins. It's affordable, easy to find, and clearly marks the end of the classic copper era. Collectors love the 1981 no mint mark penny not because it's flashy, but because it tells a quiet story. It represents a moment when American coinage was about to change forever. It's one of the last pennies made the old way, with real weight and real copper, before economics reshaped everyday money. Today, this coin appeals to many types of collectors. Some enjoy searching rolls for errors. Others collect one example from every year before the composition change. And some simply like owning a small piece of American history that most people overlook. As you go through your change, remember this. The most valuable stories are often hidden in the most ordinary places. A simple brown penny from 1981 might not make headlines, but it carries the weight of history, transition, and possibility. So next time you find a penny with no mint mark and the date 1981, don't rush to spend it. Take a closer look. You might be holding more than just 1 cent. You might be holding a quiet reminder of how even the smallest things can mark the end of an era and the beginning of something new. Imagine pulling a penny from your pocket that looks completely ordinary, yet carries a story of American change, hidden flaws, and surprising collector interest. This is the story of the 1984 VDB Lincoln penny, a coin most people overlook, but collectors never ignore. The 1984 VDB Lincoln penny is a 1-cent coin struck at the Denver Mint, identified by the small d just below the date on the front. At first glance, it looks like millions of other Lincoln cents. Abraham Lincoln faces right on the front, calm and familiar. On the back, the Lincoln Memorial stands proudly, just as it did on pennies for decades. But this coin was born during a turning point in U.S. coin history, and that moment makes it more interesting than it appears. By 1984, the United States had already changed how pennies were made. Rising copper prices in the late 1970s forced the U.S. Mint to rethink the traditional all-copper cent. Starting in 1982, pennies were made mostly of zinc with a thin copper coating. The 1984 D penny belongs fully to this new era. It looks like copper, but inside it is mostly zinc, a detail that would later create unexpected problems and valuable errors. The year 1984 was a time of economic recovery in America. Inflation was cooling, and the country was moving forward after a turbulent decade. Pennies were still essential for everyday purchases, vending machines, and making exact change. The Denver Mint worked non-stop, producing over 4 billion Lincoln cents that year. That massive number is one reason most 1984 D pennies are still worth just 1 cent. But large production also means more chances for mistakes, and mistakes are where collector interest begins. The design of the 1984 D Lincoln penny follows the classic Lincoln memorial style created by engraver Frank Gasparo. Lincoln's portrait on the front is strong and dignified, based on a sculpture made more than a century earlier. The words "In God We Trust" appear above his head, with liberty to the left and the date to the right. Beneath the date sits the small but important D mint mark, showing it was made in Denver. On the back, the Lincoln Memorial includes a tiny seated statue of Lincoln visible between the columns, a detail many people never notice. The metal composition is where things get interesting. The coin is 97.5% zinc with a thin copper layer on the outside. This change saved money for the mint, but it also made the penny more fragile. Zinc reacts easily to air and moisture. If the copper coating is damaged, the zinc underneath can corrode. This has led to bubbling, peeling, and pitted surfaces on many 1984 D pennies, a problem collectors often call zinc rot. Most worn examples are not valuable, but certain errors and high-quality coins can be worth real money. One of the most desirable versions of the 1984 D penny is a coin in near-perfect condition. Coins graded MS67 or higher by professional grading services are extremely rare. While millions were made, very few survived without scratches, weak strikes, or surface damage. In top condition, these coins have sold at auction for several $100s, sometimes more when demand is high. Error coins are where excitement really builds. While the famous 1984 double die penny came from the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint produced its own share of mistakes. Off-center strikes are one example, where the design is visibly shifted to one side. Some 1984 D pennies were struck on the wrong planchet, making them lighter or heavier than normal. Others show dramatic die cracks, where raised lines appear across Lincoln's face or the lettering. These cracks happened when worn dies continued to strike coins instead of being replaced. Another collectible variety includes repunched mint marks. Earlier in U.S. coin production, mint marks were added to dies by hand. Sometimes they were punched more than once, leaving a slightly doubled or shadowed D. While not extremely rare, these varieties attract collectors who specialize in Denver Mint coins. Clear examples in good condition can sell for significantly more than face value. Real auction results help separate hype from reality. A typical circulated 1984 D penny is worth 1 cent. An uncirculated example in average mint condition might sell for a few cents to $1. But a sharply struck, bright red example graded MS67 has sold for hundreds of dollars at major coin auctions. Error coins vary widely. A strong off-center strike might sell for $50 to a few $100s, while dramatic wrong planchet errors can reach even higher prices depending on appearance and demand. Identifying a genuine 1984 D penny is simple, but spotting a valuable one takes patience. First, check the date and the mint mark. The D should be clear and located just below the year. Next, weigh the coin if possible. A normal zinc penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. Significant differences may indicate an error. Examine the surface closely for bubbling, cracks, or missing copper plating. Look at the strike quality. Sharp details and strong lettering increase collector interest. Be cautious of altered coins. Some damaged pennies are mistaken for errors when they are simply corroded or intentionally modified. Real mint errors usually show smooth, rounded features rather than jagged damage. If you believe you have something special, professional grading and authentication is the safest way to confirm its value. There are some fun facts that make the 1984 D penny even more fascinating. Despite being mostly zinc, it will not stick to a magnet, which surprises many people. The Lincoln Memorial design was nearing the end of its long run in the 1980s, making coins like this part of a closing chapter in U.S. penny history. Many people born in 1984 now search for these coins as birth-year collectibles, adding another layer of demand. Collectors today appreciate the 1984 D Lincoln penny not because it is rare in general, but because it represents a moment of transition. It shows how cost-cutting changed American coinage forever. It also reminds collectors that value is not always about age. Condition, errors, and history matter just as much. A coin from the 1980s can still surprise you, especially when millions were made, but only a handful survived perfectly. So the next time you see a 1984 D penny, don't dismiss it too quickly. Turn it over. Look closely. That small copper-colored coin may carry scars from rushed production, hidden mistakes from worn machinery, or even the quality that sets it apart from billions of others. And sometimes, the most interesting treasures are the ones we've been holding in our hands all along, without ever realizing their story. Most people would never look twice at a 1989 penny. But what if I told you that one small detail on this coin can completely change its story, and in rare cases, its value? A tiny missing mark that millions of people overlook every single day. The coin we're talking about is the 1989 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. At first glance, it looks ordinary. It's brown or copper-colored, it's light, and it probably feels exactly like the pennies sitting in your pocket right now. But behind this simple appearance is a fascinating story of American history, minting practices, collector demand, and a few surprises that have caught people completely off guard. Let's start with what this coin actually is. The 1989 Lincoln penny is officially called the Lincoln Memorial Cent. It features Abraham Lincoln on the front, a design first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. By 1989, this design had already been in use for 80 years, making it one of the most recognizable coins in American history. On the front of the coin, you'll see Lincoln's profile facing right. Above his head is the word Liberty. In front of his face is the date, 1989. Below him is the famous phrase, "In God we trust." On the back, instead of the Lincoln Memorial that many people remember, you'll see the Lincoln Memorial building itself, with tiny columns and even a small statue of Lincoln hidden between them. Now here's where things get interesting. This penny has no mint mark. In the United States, mint marks tell us where a coin was made. During 1989, pennies were struck at three main mints. Philadelphia pennies had no mint mark. Denver pennies had a small D. San Francisco pennies, which were made for collectors, had an S. So when you see a 1989 penny with no mint mark, that means it was made in Philadelphia. And in 1989, the Philadelphia Mint produced billions of pennies. This was a time when cash was still king. People used coins every day for newspapers, coffee, phone calls, and parking meters. The demand for cents was massive. The year 1989 itself is also worth remembering. It was the final year of the 1980s, a period of major economic change in the United States. The Cold War was coming to an end. Technology was advancing quickly, but American coinage still looked almost exactly the same as it had decades earlier. The Lincoln penny was a symbol of stability and tradition. Now let's talk about what makes this coin unique from a physical standpoint. By 1989, pennies were no longer made of solid copper. Starting in 1982, the U.S. Mint changed the composition to save money. The 1989 penny is made of 97.5% zinc, with a thin copper coating on the outside. That's why it weighs about 2.5 grams, lighter than older copper pennies. This change in metal is important because it affects durability. Zinc pennies can corrode more easily if the copper coating is damaged. That's one reason why finding a 1989 penny in perfect condition today is much harder than you might expect. The design itself also has subtle details collectors pay attention to. The sharpness of Lincoln's hair, the clarity of the date, and the fine lines in the Lincoln Memorial all matter. Small differences can mean the difference between a common coin and a highly desirable one. So if billions were made, why do people even talk about the value of a 1989 no-mint mark penny? The answer lies in condition and errors. Most 1989 pennies are only worth 1 cent. That's the honest truth. But collectors don't just look at age. They look at quality. A coin that has never been used, never scratched, and never damaged can be worth far more than face value. Uncirculated 1989 no-mint mark pennies, especially those graded by professional services, can sell for several dollars. In extremely high grades, known as mint state 67 or higher, prices can climb much more. These are coins that look almost exactly the way they did the day they left the mint. Then there are error coins. This is where the real excitement begins. Some 1989 pennies were struck with mistakes during the minting process. These errors can include off-center strikes, where the design is not properly aligned. Others may show double dies, where parts of the design appear doubled due to a misalignment in the die creation process. Another known issue involves weak strikes, where details appear softer or faded. While some weak strikes are common and not valuable, dramatic examples can attract collector interest. There are also cases of clipped planchets, where a portion of the coin is missing because the metal strip was miscut before striking. These errors are rare and can significantly increase value. Real auction results prove that collectors are willing to pay for these unusual examples. Some high-grade 1989 no-mint mark pennies have sold for tens or even hundreds of dollars. Error coins can sell for even more, depending on how dramatic and clearly visible the mistake is. But with value comes risk, and that leads us to an important question. How do you tell a real valuable 1989 penny from a fake or altered one? First, always check the weight. A genuine 1989 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. If it's much heavier or lighter, that's a red flag. Next, examine the mint mark area closely. Since Philadelphia pennies have no mint mark, scammers sometimes try to remove a D or S from other coins. Look for signs of scraping, rough texture, or unnatural smoothness just below the date. A real no-mint mark coin should look completely natural in that area. Magnification is your best friend. Use a simple magnifying glass to inspect the letters and numbers. Real mint errors usually affect multiple parts of the coin, not just one isolated area. Also, be cautious of claims that every 1989 penny is rare. That's simply not true. Value depends on condition and verified errors. When in doubt, professional grading services exist for a reason. They authenticate, grade, and encapsulate coins to protect both buyers and sellers. Now let's talk about some fun and surprising facts about this coin. In 1989, the U.S. Mint did not release official mintage numbers as a big public event. Most people had no idea how many pennies were being made. Yet today, those numbers help collectors understand why certain coins survive in better condition than others. Another interesting detail is that many 1989 pennies were saved by people who thought all previous 1,990 coins would someday be valuable. Ironically, most of those saved coins were stored improperly, leading to spots, discoloration, and damage that reduced their value. Also, this penny belongs to the final generation of Lincoln cents with the memorial reverse. Just 20 years later, in 2009, the design would change to celebrate Lincoln's life, and then again to the Union Shield. That makes the 1989 penny part of a closing chapter in a long design era. Collectors today love this coin for several reasons. It's affordable, accessible, and easy to find. It allows beginners to learn about grading, errors, and minting history without spending a fortune. At the same time, advanced collectors enjoy hunting for top-grade examples that are surprisingly difficult to locate. There's also a strong emotional connection. Many people remember using these pennies as kids or seeing them in their parents' change jars. Coins like this are small time capsules, carrying everyday moments from the past into the present. So what should you do if you find a 1989 no mint mark Lincoln penny? Don't dismiss it. Take a closer look. Check the condition. Look for errors. Weigh it. Examine it under magnification. Even if it turns out to be worth only 1 cent, you've learned something valuable. And in rare cases, you might be holding something far more interesting than you ever expected. The truth is, history often hides in plain sight. Sometimes it's not gold or silver. Sometimes it's a simple penny that millions of people overlook. And the next time you see a 1989 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, you might pause for just a moment longer, wondering what story it has to tell, and whether this ordinary-looking coin might be just a little more special than it seems. What if I told you that a penny most people ignore every single day could still be hiding a story worth knowing, and sometimes even money worth saving? Stay with me, because the 2002 no mint mark Lincoln penny might not look special at first glance, but its story, its mistakes, and its hidden possibilities may surprise you. The coin we're talking about today is the 2002 Lincoln 1-cent coin with no mint mark. If you've ever looked closely at your pocket change and noticed that some pennies don't have a letter under the date, that's exactly what this is. A missing mint mark doesn't mean the coin is fake. It means it was made in Philadelphia, the oldest mint in the United States. In 2002, America was stepping into a new era. The country was adjusting to the early 2000s, new technology, and a changing economy. Yet, every day, the U.S. Mint continued producing billions of pennies for daily use. The Lincoln cent had already been around for more than 90 years by then, and it remained one of the most familiar objects in American life. The 2002 penny was produced to meet everyday demand. People used cash more often back then. Vending machines were everywhere, and the penny was still considered essential for pricing and transactions. The Philadelphia Mint struck a massive number of these coins, which is why most people assume they're all worthless. But as collectors know, value doesn't always come from age alone. Let's talk about how this penny looks. On the front, you see Abraham Lincoln facing right. This portrait was designed by Victor David Brenner and has been used since 1909. Above Lincoln's head is the phrase "In God We Trust." In front of his face is the word "Liberty." Below is the date, 2002. If there is no letter under the date, that confirms it was made in Philadelphia. On the back, you see the Lincoln Memorial. This design was used from 1959 until 2008. Inside the memorial, if you look very closely, you can actually see a tiny statue of Lincoln sitting inside. Around the edges are the words "United States of America" and "E pluribus unum," with 1 cent at the bottom. The metal composition of the 2002 penny is important. Unlike older pennies that were mostly copper, this coin is made of zinc with a thin copper coating. About 97.5% zinc and only 2.5% copper. This change was made in the early 1980s to save money, as copper prices were rising. That means the 2002 penny does not contain valuable metal, but condition and errors are where the real interest begins. Now here's the question everyone asks. Is the 2002 no mint mark penny rare? In normal condition, the honest answer is no. Millions were made and most are worth exactly 1 cent, but that's not the full story. Some examples can be valuable, and those are the coins collectors look for. The real value comes from condition and minting errors. A 2002 penny that looks brand new, with no wear, bright color, and sharp details, can be worth more than face value. Uncirculated examples can sell for a few dollars, sometimes more if professionally graded. But errors are where things get exciting. Some 2002 no-mint mark pennies were struck with mistakes. These mistakes happened during the fast-paced minting process. A few known errors include off-center strikes, where the design is not properly aligned, clipped planchets, where a piece of the coin is missing, and die cracks, which look like raised lines across the surface. There are also doubled die errors, where parts of the lettering or date appear doubled because the die was misaligned during production. These are rare, but they exist. When authenticated, these error coins can sell for anywhere from $20 to several $100s, depending on how dramatic the error is. At coin auctions and online marketplaces, standard circulated 2002 pennies usually sell in bulk for small amounts. But certified uncirculated examples graded by professional services have sold for $50 or more, especially when collectors are completing specific date sets. Error coins have sold for much higher prices when verified. So how do you know if the 2002 penny you have is real or altered? First, check the weight. A normal 2002 penny weighs about 2.5 grams. If it's much lighter or heavier, that could indicate damage or alteration. Look closely at the surface under good lighting. Real mint errors look natural and part of the metal, not scratched or carved. Avoid coins that look intentionally damaged. Scratches, dents, or flattened areas from tools are not mint errors. Collectors want mistakes that happened at the mint, not after the coin entered circulation. Another important step is magnification. A simple magnifying glass can reveal doubling, cracks, or unusual details. If you believe you found something special, do not clean the coin. Cleaning can destroy its value instantly. Leave it exactly as it is. Here's a fun fact many people don't know. Even though pennies cost more than 1 cent to produce, the U.S. Mint continues making them because of tradition and public demand. That makes modern pennies like the 2002 issue part of an ongoing debate about the future of American currency. Another interesting detail is that billions of Lincoln Memorial pennies like this one are now disappearing from circulation. People save them, jars get lost, and fewer pennies are used every year. That slow disappearance adds long-term interest for collectors who focus on complete date and mint mark sets. Collectors also love the 2002 penny because it represents the final years of the Lincoln Memorial design. Just a few years later, the reverse design would change. That makes coins from this era feel like the closing chapter of a long story. For many collectors, this penny isn't about becoming rich overnight. It's about the thrill of the hunt, searching through everyday change, finding a clean example, or discovering an error no one noticed before. That feeling keeps people collecting. The 2002 no-mint mark Lincoln penny reminds us that even common objects can carry history. It passed through countless hands, bought coffee, paid tolls, and sat in drawers. Every one of these coins has lived a life before it reached you. So the next time you see a penny with the date 2002 and no mint mark, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Check the condition. Look for errors. Because sometimes value isn't about how old something is, but about what makes it different. And who knows? The penny you almost threw away today might be the one that sparks a lifelong interest in collecting tomorrow. Most people would never look twice at a 2006 penny. It sits quietly in jars, pockets, and drawers. But what if I told you that some 2006 D Lincoln pennies have surprised collectors, sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, and still hide in plain sight today? This video is about the 2006 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin most Americans have held but very few truly understand. At first glance, it looks ordinary. Abraham Lincoln on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back, a single cent of face value. But behind this simple design is a story of modern American history, hidden errors, and collector demand that continues to grow. The 2006 D Lincoln penny was made in the United States during a time of major change. In 2006, The U.S. Mint was in the middle of producing billions of coins every year to meet everyday demand. The letter D on this penny means it was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the most active mints in the country. That single letter tells us where the coin was born, and for collectors, it can make a real difference. The Lincoln cent itself has a long history. It was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. By 2006, Lincoln had already appeared on the penny for nearly a century, making him the longest-running portrait on any U.S. coin. The design on the front in 2006 still showed Lincoln's profile, originally created by Victor David Brenner. The back featured the Lincoln Memorial, a design that had been in use since 1959. So why was the 2006 D penny made? Simply put, America needed pennies. Millions of daily transactions still relied on small change. Vending machines, parking meters, cash registers, and banks all depended on a steady supply. In 2006 alone, the Denver Mint struck well over 2 billion Lincoln cents. That sounds like a huge number, and it is. But high mintage does not always mean zero value. One of the most interesting things about the 2006 D penny is what it is made of. Unlike older pennies made mostly of copper, the 2006 penny is primarily zinc. It contains about 97.5% zinc with a thin copper coating on the outside. This change happened back in 1982, but many people still assume modern pennies are solid copper. They are not. This difference in metal plays a big role in how the coin ages, how it reacts to damage, and how errors appear. The design details are another place where collectors look closely. On the front, you'll see the words "In God We Trust" along the top, "Liberty" on the left, and the date 2006 on the right. Just below the date is the D Mint mark. On the back, the Lincoln Memorial stands in the center, with United States of America and 1 cent surrounding it. If you look carefully, you can even see a tiny statue of Lincoln inside the memorial, something many people never notice. Now here's where things get interesting. Even though most 2006 D pennies are worth only 1 cent, certain examples are far from ordinary. Errors and varieties are what give this coin its hidden potential. Errors happen when something goes wrong during the minting process, and in large-scale production, mistakes are inevitable. One of the most sought-after errors on the 2006 D penny is the doubled die. This occurs when the coin design is impressed more than once, slightly off alignment. The result is doubling in letters or numbers, especially noticeable in God We Trust, the date, or Liberty. To the naked eye, it may look like blurry text. Under magnification, the doubling becomes clear. Another valuable error is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank coin is not properly positioned during striking. Parts of the design may be missing, and the blank metal may show on one side. The more dramatic the off-center strike, and the more complete the date and mint mark, the more valuable the coin becomes. There are also clipped planchets, where part of the coin is missing because the metal sheet was cut incorrectly. These coins have smooth, curved missing sections and are highly collectible. In addition, some 2006 D pennies show die cracks, cut errors, or unusual plating issues where the copper coating peels away, exposing the zinc core beneath. So how valuable can these coins really be? In everyday condition, a normal 2006 D penny found in circulation is usually worth 1 cent. In uncirculated condition, it may be worth a few cents to a collector. But error coins are a different story. Some confirmed doubled die 2006 D pennies have sold for several $100s, depending on strength and condition. Off-center strikes can sell for $50 to $300 or more. Dramatic mint errors with strong eye appeal have reached prices above $1,000 at auction. These are real sales, not rumors or hype. Condition, rarity, and demand all play a role. Collectors also value high-grade examples. A 2006 D penny graded in near-perfect condition by a professional grading service can sell for significantly more than face value. Coins graded M, S67 or higher are scarce because modern pennies are easily damaged during mass production and circulation. With valuable coins comes the risk of fakes or altered pieces. Knowing how to identify a real 2006 penny is important. First, check the weight. A genuine penny from this year should weigh about 2.5 grams. A digital scale can help. Next, look closely at the mint mark. On real coins, the D is clean and properly shaped. Added or altered mint marks often look uneven or poorly placed. For error coins, natural mistakes have specific characteristics. Doubling should look like a true separation in the design, not machine doubling, which appears flat and shelf-like. Off-center strikes should show smooth, rounded edges, not jagged cuts. If a coin looks suspicious, professional authentication is always the safest option. There are also fun facts about the 2006 penny that many people don't know. In 2006, the cost to produce a penny was already higher than its face value. This sparked debates that still continue today about whether the penny should exist at all. Yet collectors continue to search through rolls, hoping to find that one special coin. Another interesting detail is that the Lincoln Memorial design would only last a few more years. In 2009, the back of the penny changed to commemorate Lincoln's life, and in 2010, it changed again to the Union Shield. That makes the 2006 penny part of the final chapter of the classic memorial reverse era. Collectors love this coin not because it is rare by default, but because it represents opportunity. It reminds people that valuable coins are not always old or gold. Sometimes they are modern, overlooked, and hiding in everyday change. Searching for a 2006 penny is something anyone can do, whether you are a seasoned collector or someone just curious about what's in your pocket. Today, this coin is still actively collected. Error hunters search bank rolls. Beginners use it as a learning tool. Experienced collectors look for top-grade examples. It connects everyday Americans to the larger story of U.S. coinage and history. So the next time you see a 2006 Lincoln penny, don't dismiss it too quickly. Turn it over. Look closely. Check the details. Because while most are just 1 cent, a few tell a much bigger story. And sometimes, the most ordinary coin can hold the most unexpected surprise. Most people would never look twice at a 2016 penny. But what if I told you that some of these ordinary-looking coins have surprised collectors, sparked debates, and even sold for far more than 1 cent, simply because of what's missing? This is the story of the 2016 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a modern coin that quietly sits in millions of pockets, yet carries details that make collectors stop, look closer, and sometimes reach for their magnifying glass. At first glance, this coin seems completely familiar. It's the Lincoln cent most Americans recognize instantly. On the front, you see President Abraham Lincoln's portrait, dignified and calm, just as it has appeared for decades. On the back, instead of the old wheat stalks or the Lincoln Memorial, you see the Union Shield, a design that represents national unity and strength. And right under the date, something appears to be missing. There is no mint mark. To understand why that matters, we need to go back to the year 2016. The United States Mint produced billions of pennies that year. By this point, the penny had already become a subject of debate. Many people questioned whether it should still exist at all. Rising metal costs and changes in spending habits had pushed the penny into an uncertain future. Yet, despite all that, the mint continued producing Lincoln cents for everyday use. In 2016, pennies were struck at multiple facilities. Coins made in Philadelphia traditionally do not carry a mint mark. Coins made in Denver show a small D under the date. So when you see a 2016 penny with no mint mark, it tells you that the coin was made in Philadelphia. This is not a mistake. It is a long-standing tradition in U.S. coinage. So why are people searching for this coin? The answer lies in a mix of modern minting history, subtle details, and the growing interest in errors and variations. Even though the 2016 no mint mark penny is common in general circulation, certain examples stand out from the rest. Let's talk about what this coin is made of. Since 1982, U.S. pennies have been struck primarily from zinc, with a thin copper coating. The 2016 penny follows this same formula. It weighs about 2.5 grams and has that familiar copper color, though over time it can darken or show spots due to the thin plating. The design also matters. Lincoln's portrait, originally created by Victor David Brenner in 1909, is still the foundation of the modern cent. In 2016, the portrait is sharper and more refined thanks to improved minting technology. On the reverse, the Union Shield design, introduced in 2010, symbolizes the original 13 states coming together as one nation. Each vertical stripe represents unity, while the horizontal bar across the top stands for Congress. Now here's where things get interesting. While most 2016 no mint mark pennies are worth just 1 cent, collectors are not looking for the average coin. They are hunting for the unusual ones. Small mistakes during the minting process can turn an ordinary penny into something special. Some 2016 pennies show doubling on the letters or numbers. This can happen when the coin die shifts slightly during the striking process. The result is a subtle shadow-like doubling, especially noticeable on the date or the word Liberty. These doubled details are not always easy to spot, but collectors know exactly where to look. Other examples include off-center strikes, where the design is not perfectly centered on the coin. If the date is still visible and the error is dramatic enough, the value can rise quickly. There are also cases of weak strikes, missing details, or unusually strong details caused by die wear or pressure variations. In rare situations, a penny may be struck on the wrong planchet, meaning it was made on a metal blank intended for a different coin. These errors are extremely uncommon, but when they happen, they attract serious attention. So, is the 2016 no mint mark penny rare? In general, no. Millions were made. You could find one today in your pocket change. But rarity in coin collecting often depends on condition and errors. A perfectly preserved 2016 penny, graded as mint state with no wear, is far less common than a circulated one, and a confirmed mint error is even harder to find. This brings us to real-world values. A typical circulated 2016 no mint mark penny is worth face value. However, uncirculated examples in excellent condition can sell for a few dollars, especially if they have strong luster and no visible marks. Coins graded by professional services in high mint state levels have sold for higher prices, sometimes reaching tens of dollars. Error coins tell a different story. A genuine doubled die 2016 penny, clearly visible and authenticated, has sold for anywhere from $20 to over $100, depending on the strength of the doubling and overall condition. Off-center strikes with clear dates have also sold in similar ranges. More dramatic or unusual errors can bring even higher prices when the right collector is bidding. Now let's talk about how to tell a real coin from a fake or altered one. First, remember that adding or removing a mint mark is one of the most common forms of coin tampering. Some people try to remove the D from a Denver coin to make it look like a Philadelphia issue, or add a fake mint mark to increase perceived value. On a genuine 2016 no mint mark penny, the area under the date should look smooth and natural, not scratched or disturbed. Next, look closely at the details. Real mint errors are part of the metal itself. Doubling will look raised and rounded, not flat or etched. If the doubling appears scratched or cut into the surface, it is likely damage, not a true error. Weight can also be a clue. A standard 2016 penny should weigh around 2.5 grams. A significant difference could suggest damage, corrosion, or an unusual error that may require professional evaluation. When in doubt, experienced collectors recommend having valuable-looking coins examined by a reputable grading service. Authentication protects both buyers and sellers. There are also some fun and surprising facts about the 2016 penny. Even though the penny is often criticized as outdated, billions are still produced every year. The Lincoln cent remains one of the longest-running designs in U.S. history. Abraham Lincoln has appeared on the penny for more than a century, longer than any other real person on American coinage. Another interesting detail is that modern pennies like the 2016 issue are more zinc than copper. Despite their copper appearance, they are mostly zinc inside. This has led some collectors to call them copper-coated zinc cents, a reminder of how coinage evolves with economic changes. Collectors today are also paying more attention to modern coins than ever before. In the past, people focused mainly on older dates. Now, modern errors and high-grade examples are actively collected, especially by newer hobbyists who want to find something valuable in everyday change. That's one of the reasons the 2016 no mint mark penny has gained attention. It represents the idea that you don't need a 100-year-old coin to start collecting. Sometimes the story begins with what you already have in your hand. Collectors love this coin not because it is rare by default, but because it invites curiosity. It encourages people to look closer at ordinary objects and discover the hidden details. It's a reminder that value in coin collecting often comes from knowledge, patience, and careful observation. As you go through your pocket change, that small copper-colored coin dated 2016 might not seem important, but now you know its story. You know what the missing mint mark means. You know what details collectors search for, and you know that even a modern penny can hold surprises. So the next time you hear coins clink in your pocket or see a penny on the ground, take a second look. Because sometimes, the most interesting stories are hiding in the smallest places, waiting for someone curious enough to notice. Most people would never look twice at a penny dated 2017. But what if I told you that some 2017 Lincoln pennies have sold for hundreds, and in rare cases thousands of dollars, while millions of others are still sitting unnoticed in everyday change? Today's story is about one of the most overlooked modern coins in America, the 2017 P Mint Mark Lincoln penny, and why collectors quietly pay close attention to it. The 2017 P Mint Mark Lincoln penny is a 1-cent coin struck by the United States Mint in Philadelphia. For decades, pennies made in Philadelphia did not carry a mint mark at all. But in 2017, something changed, and that small letter under the date suddenly became important. The letter P appeared on a Lincoln cent for one specific reason, and it instantly turned an ordinary coin into a historic one. To understand this coin, we need to go back to its roots. The Lincoln penny was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the first U.S. circulating coin to feature a real historical person. Over the decades, the design has changed several times, but Lincoln has remained on the front for more than a century, making it one of the most recognizable coins in the world. By 2017, the Lincoln cent had already gone through massive changes in metal composition and design. Early pennies were made of solid copper. During World War II, steel was used. Later, copper plating over zinc became the standard. By the time the 2017 penny was minted, the coin was made of a zinc core with a thin copper coating, weighing about 2.5 grams. It may look simple, but the process behind it is precise and carefully controlled. So why does the 2017 penny have a P mint mark at all? In 2017, the U.S. Mint celebrated the 225th anniversary of its founding. To mark this occasion, the Philadelphia Mint added a P mint mark to circulating pennies for the first time ever. This was a one-year-only change. Before 2017, Philadelphia pennies had no mint mark, and after 2017, the mint mark was removed again. That makes this coin a unique snapshot in time. The design of the 2017 P Lincoln penny follows the modern shield reverse, first introduced in 2010. On the front, you see Abraham Lincoln's profile, originally designed by Victor David Brenner. On the back, the Union Shield represents Lincoln's role in preserving the United States as one nation. The words E pluribus unum are integrated into the shield, symbolizing unity. While the design may look familiar, that small p under the date is what sets this coin apart. At first glance, most 2017 p pennies are not rare at all. Hundreds of millions were struck. In everyday circulated condition, they are worth exactly 1 cent. But coin collecting is not about the average example. It is about condition, rarity within the population, and mistakes that escape the minting process. Some 2017 p pennies were struck with errors that collectors actively hunt for. These include doubled dies, where letters or numbers appear slightly doubled due to a misaligned die. There are also off-center strikes, where the design is not properly centered on the coin, and broad strikes, where the coin spreads wider than normal because the collar failed during striking. Even small errors can multiply the value of this penny dramatically. Condition plays an even bigger role. A 2017 p penny in everyday pocket wear is common, but a flawless example, never circulated and graded in mint state by a professional grading service, is far less common. Coins graded MS68 or higher are extremely difficult to find, even for modern coins. These top condition examples are where the real collector value begins. At auction, ordinary uncirculated 2017 p pennies might sell for a few dollars, but high-grade examples tell a different story. Certified coins in MS67 and above have sold for tens or even hundreds of dollars. In rare cases, top population coins with perfect surfaces, sharp strikes, and original luster have reached prices that surprise people who think modern pennies are worthless. Collectors also pay close attention to transitional errors and planchet issues. A penny struck on the wrong metal, or with incorrect thickness or weight, can be extremely valuable. While these are rare, they do exist, and when a genuine example surfaces, it can attract serious attention from collectors and dealers alike. Because the 2017 p penny is relatively recent, fakes do exist, especially altered coins. Some people try to add a fake p mint mark to earlier pennies, or alter the date to appear as 2017. To identify a real one, always start with the basics. The date should be crisp and evenly spaced. The P mint mark should look clean, properly shaped, and positioned exactly where it belongs beneath the date. If the mint mark looks glued, scratched, or uneven, it is likely not original. Weight is another clue. A genuine 2017 penny should weigh close to 2.5 grams. A digital scale can quickly reveal if something is wrong. Magnification is also important. Under a loupe or microscope, real mint marks show smooth integration with the coin's surface, not raised edges or tool marks. Professional grading is the safest route for valuable examples. Reputable grading companies authenticate, grade, and seal the coin in a protective holder, giving buyers confidence and establishing real market value. Many of the highest auction prices for this penny come from graded examples. There are also some surprising facts about the 2017 P. Lincoln penny. It is the first time in U.S. history that a Philadelphia minted penny carried a P mint mark for circulation. That alone makes it historically important, even if most examples are common. It represents a deliberate break from tradition, something the U.S. Mint rarely does lightly. Another interesting detail is how many people unknowingly spent these coins. Millions passed through hands without anyone realizing they were holding a one-year-only issue. This has made high-grade survivors harder to find than you might expect, because many were damaged in circulation before collectors noticed. Collectors today love the 2017 P penny because it sits at the intersection of modern coinage and history. It is affordable, accessible, and still searchable in pocket change or old rolls. For new collectors, it offers an easy entry point. For advanced collectors, it becomes a challenge of condition, errors, and registry competition. The coin also reminds people that valuable coins are not always ancient or made of gold. Sometimes, Value comes from timing, decisions, and small details like a single letter added for 1 year only. That idea keeps collectors searching, checking dates, and paying attention to coins they might otherwise ignore. As time goes on, the number of pristine 2017 p pennies will continue to shrink. Coins get scratched, lost, or damaged. High-grade examples become scarcer, and demand slowly grows as more collectors recognize the coin's unique place in U.S. mint history. So the next time you see a penny dated 2017, don't dismiss it too quickly. Look closely under the date. That small p tells a bigger story, one about tradition, change, and the hidden value that can exist in the most ordinary places. And if a single modern penny can carry this much history, it raises an interesting question. How many other everyday coins are quietly waiting to be noticed, sitting in jars, drawers, or pockets right now, with stories and value that most people never stop to see? Most people think modern pennies are worthless, but what if one small detail on a 2021 penny could make collectors stop and look twice? Today, we're diving into a coin that almost everyone has seen, many have spent, and very few have truly examined. The 2021 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny may look ordinary, but there is more hiding in this coin than you might expect. The 2021 D Lincoln penny is a 1-cent coin struck by the United States Mint in Denver. The small letter D below the date tells us where it was made. This coin was released during a time of major change in the world, when daily life was disrupted and even coin circulation slowed down. While millions of these pennies were produced, the story behind them and the details they carry have made them surprisingly interesting to collectors. The Lincoln penny itself has a long and meaningful history. It was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It became the first U.S. coin to feature a real person. More than a century later, Lincoln is still on the penny, making it one of the longest-running designs in American coinage. By 2021, the penny had already survived wars, economic crises, metal changes, and countless design updates, yet it continued to serve as a symbol of everyday American life. The year 2021 was unique in its own way. The United States was recovering from the global pandemic, and coin usage had dropped sharply. Fewer people were using cash, and coin shortages were widely discussed. Even though the U.S. Mint continued producing coins, the way people interacted with them changed. That context makes the 2021 penny part of a very specific moment in modern American history. The 2021 D penny is made primarily of zinc, with a thin copper coating. This composition has been used since 1982, when the mint moved away from mostly copper pennies to reduce production costs. Even though it no longer contains much copper, the penny still keeps its familiar reddish-brown appearance when new. On the front of the coin, you'll see Abraham Lincoln facing to the right. His portrait was designed by Victor David Brenner and has been refined over time, but it remains one of the most recognizable images in American currency. The words "In God We Trust" appear above Lincoln's head. Liberty is placed to the left, and the date 2021 appears on the right, with the small D mint mark just below it. The reverse side of the 2021 penny features the Union Shield design, which was introduced in 2010. This design symbolizes Lincoln's role in preserving the United States during the Civil War. The shield has 13 vertical stripes representing the original states, held together by a horizontal bar that stands for unity and strength. Above the shield are the words United States of America, and across the top is the national motto, E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. At first glance, the 2021 D penny doesn't look rare. In fact, it isn't rare in the traditional sense. The Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of these coins. Most examples found in circulation are worth exactly 1 cent. However, value in coin collecting is not always about how many were made. It's often about condition, timing, and mistakes. This is where the story gets interesting. Some 2021 D pennies were struck with errors. Errors happen when something goes wrong during the minting process, and collectors love them because each one is unique. Common errors include off-center strikes, where the design is not properly aligned, and die cracks, where small cracks form in the metal dies and leave raised lines on the coin. Another type of error collectors look for is doubling. This can happen when the die strikes the coin more than once in slightly different positions. If you see doubling on the date, letters, or Lincoln's features, it could significantly increase the coin's value. These details are often small and require careful inspection, but they are real and documented. Condition also plays a major role in value. A 2021 D penny that has never been circulated, meaning it shows no wear and still has its original shine, is known as a mint state coin. While these are not extremely rare, collectors often pay a premium for high-grade examples, especially those graded by professional services. In online auctions and collector marketplaces, standard uncirculated 2021 D pennies may sell for a few cents to a couple of dollars. That may not sound impressive, but error coins are a different story. Some verified 2021 D penny errors have sold for tens or even hundreds of dollars, depending on the type and severity of the mistake. Coins with dramatic off-center strikes or strong doubling attract the most attention. To identify a genuine 2021 D penny, start with the basics. Check the date and make sure the D mint mark is present below the year. The weight should be about 2.5 grams. If the coin feels unusually heavy or light, it could be damaged or altered. The edges should be smooth, with no reading since pennies have plain edges. When looking for errors, use good lighting and, if possible, a magnifying glass. Look closely at the letters, numbers, and Lincoln's profile. Raised lines, unusual thickness in letters, or misaligned designs can all be signs of mint errors. Be cautious of damage caused after the coin left the mint. Scratches, dents, and corrosion do not add value and are often mistaken for errors by beginners. One important thing to remember is that fake pennies are extremely rare, but altered coins do exist. Some people try to modify normal coins to look like errors. A true mint error will show consistent metal flow and natural features from the striking process, not rough or uneven tool marks. There are also some fun and surprising facts about the 2021 penny. Even though many people talk about eliminating the penny altogether, it continues to be produced year after year. The cost to make a penny is actually higher than its face value, yet it remains an important part of U.S. coinage tradition. The 2021 D penny is a reminder that even in a digital age, physical money still matters. Collectors today are increasingly interested in modern coins, especially those tied to specific historical moments. The 2021 penny represents a time of recovery and change. Younger collectors often start with coins like this because they are easy to find and affordable, while experienced collectors enjoy searching for errors and high-grade examples. Another reason collectors love the 2021 D penny is accessibility. You don't need to spend a lot of money to start collecting. You can check your pocket change, coin rolls from the bank, or old jars at home. Every coin is a small treasure hunt, and the possibility of finding something special keeps people engaged. The 2021 D Lincoln penny may not make you rich overnight, but it offers something just as valuable. It connects everyday life with history, craftsmanship, and curiosity. It teaches us that even the smallest coin can have a story, and sometimes value is found not in rarity alone, but in understanding what we hold in our hands. So the next time you see a penny dated 2021 with a small D under the year, don't rush to spend it. Take a closer look. Examine the details. Think about where it was made and what was happening in the world when it was struck. Because in the world of coin collecting, even the most ordinary-looking penny can lead to an unexpected discovery. And sometimes, the coins we overlook the most have the most to teach us.